What's happening, people? What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a little recording episode, video with your boy CJ from the Gunner's Corner. And this is just a short little video we're going to be putting out. Briefly, what we're going to be touching on and talking about is Mikel Arteta and his rise, as well as Arsenal's rise to glory and to the top of the table, the top of world football, European football, English football under Mikel Arteta's management. Now, as you can see, folks, I'm doing this video outside. It's a nice sunny day here in Toronto. Um, I'm getting ready to actually go over to London to be part of the parade that's happening next Sunday in London after winning the Premier League, and as well as I'm going to be watching the Champions League final down in London as well. So any of my UK followers, any of our UK followers, come link up with me, come link up with us. Let me know places to watch the Champions League final down in London. Myself and Murdad as well, also who's also on the channel, is also going to be going down to London to link up for this game. So, yeah, we're looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a great vibe down there. If you see me, if you see Murdad down there from the Gunners Corner, come shout us, come say hi. And like I said, also let us know in the comments places where we can go to watch games or to go to watch the Champions League final down there because it's going to be an absolutely insane vibe and atmosphere. And I don't know about you guys, man, but I'm still over the moon. I'm still buzzing. Um, there's a great glow around the place in Arsenal circles. Obviously, the sun being out. Apparently, again, the weather is great down in London as well. So we're all just vibing at the moment, man. It's a great time. It's a really good time. And I'm pinching myself because if you asked me if we would ever see something like this again, in a long time, at least from an Arsenal perspective, you'd have to doubt it. You'd have to question it. You'd have to say no. You didn't see this coming. You didn't see days like this coming for a long time. We've been in the mud. We've been struggling as Arsenal Football Club, and Arteta came in when he did. Said he was going to turn the ship around, and he has more than done that now. Fair play to him. And someone like me who's been critical of him over the years, listen, a lot of that stuff I don't apologize for. I said this and in a recent recording, episode 109, that me and the boys put out on the channel. I don't apologize for, questioning Arteta or wanting him out once upon a time because he would even tell you himself. He came out Arteta recently and said it in some interviews and in some some video reports that was released recently of him saying he probably should have won titles sooner or won something sooner than he did with Arsenal Football Club. For the record, Arteta has won the FA Cup in 2020. He had two Community Shields, and he now has one Premier League. But our last, proper trophy success, which you can say was the FA Cup back in 2020, was what, 7 years ago, six years ago now. That's a very long time for the size and the stature of Arsenal Football Club. Yes, there was a lot of a mess that he had to, that was done before him that he had to rectify under, the likes of the latter Wenger years, Unai Emery and all that. He had to steady the ship. He had to do a job and he had to get things back on track. But again, he's been given a lot of time, a lot of investment, a lot of financial backing that even Unai Emery wasn't given. And in 6 years to finish, because let's go over his league finishes. He finished eighth in his first season, which was a half season. That was in 2020, but he won the FA Cup that year. 2021 eighth, 2022 fifth, 2023 second, 2024 second, 2025 second, and now 2026 champion Premier League winners. So the last trophy didn't come. Well, the last trophy came in 2020, right? As I mentioned, the FA Cup. And that is unacceptable. That's deemed unacceptable for a club the size of Arsenal Football Club in the stature. And a lot of other managers at the other big clubs probably would have been sacked in that time, having not delivered any silverware. It's just the way the world goes. It's football, it's business. Football is a business at the end of the day, and it's a results-based business, you know. So again, Arteta himself admitting that he probably should have delivered more in terms of silverware in this time period after all the backing and the money and whatnot. It's not just us saying it, right? He knows he's critical of himself. He's mentioned a few times after last couple seasons that he considered walking away if it wasn't for his wife, pushing him and keeping him going. He might have considered stepping down. So Yeah, it's been a tough ride. It's been a tough journey, but again, this is an exercise in patience. And whilst, you don't need to apologize for being critical of the manager or even questioning it whether he's the right man for the job, equally you have to come here and have praise. You can't be wrong and strong. You have to give credit to the manager, give credit to even the ownership. The ownership stuck by him. They showed that patience and that faith. They gave him the financial investment, the money. Last summer window was our biggest in terms of financial outlay ever. We saw Declan Rice come through the door for 100 mil. When did we ever think that we would see Arsenal Football Club and these owners spend 100 mil on a player? But that just goes to show their faith in the manager and what we can do and what we could deliver. And yesterday, or at the time of recording this, right? I'm recording this on Monday after the trophy lift. Those scenes, that's not AI. That was something that we never thought that we would see for a very long time, and you're seeing it live in the flesh. It was a beautiful sight. If you've been through this journey as an Arsenal fan, you've been there through the trenches, through the mud, in this 20 plus year period of us not winning the major honors and seeing 8-2s and 6-0s and, you know, 10-1 aggregate Bayern Munich, losing in Baku, losing out to Villarreal and Unai Emery in the semifinals of the Europa League. We've seen a lot of shit, a lot of nonsense. Players are, all due respect, but I'm going to name some of the players that have just not been good enough for this club. The Bellerins, the Mustafis, the Kolasinacs, the Socrates, you know, these guys. Look at what we have now, especially those are defenders that I've named. Look at the defenders that we have now. Gabriel, Saliba, Mosquera, Calafiori, Timber, Hincapié, Ben White. It just goes to show that the turnaround. Arteta came in and his first line of business was just to get us some defensive structure, defensive shape, a back line that can be bullied, a back line that is not spineless, a back line that is not weak, that has strength, that has dark arts, that has ability on the ball as well, that has confidence, that has mentality. That was Arteta's first line of duty. That was his main mission was to come in here to make us defensively stable once again and to not concede 35, 40 shots, 50 shots a game. You know, it was to come in and make us resolute. And wow, fast forward on to 2026, our title win has been built based off of that defensive structure. 110%. We have won this title. We have based winning this title off of being defensively sound, defensively resolute. They say defense wins championships. Well, I think there's no clearer evidence of that than this Arsenal 2025-2026 Premier League campaign. We don't have a superstar in attack. Some would say maybe Saka, he's been off form this season. He hasn't been his best this season. So how do we win this? We won this based off of a team effort, based off of the mentality to grind, to dig deep, to defend. How many times have we kept clean sheets this season? How many 1-0s have we had this season? That again is all down to the manager and what he instills in this player. If you in these players, if you don't run in this Arteta team, you're out of the team. If you don't work off the ball, you're out of the team. If you switch off defensively, you're out of the team. Eze saw that in December against Aston Villa, Matty Cash, back post. Eze switches off, back post, Matty Cash finishes in the bottom corner. Eze didn't see the pitch again for a couple months, or at least not from the starting 11. As they now realize what it takes to work in this team. Yoker is the same. We see Havertz is a pressing monster in this team. He showed it against Man City, the Etihad, when he scored that goal from Donnarumma's mistake. Gyökeres has now learned what that means as well. Gyökeres is starting to all facets of the game. Gyökeres is learning, not just how to be a good finisher, but how to link up the play, how to work off the ball, you know, track your man, high press, defending from the front, pressing from the front. Gyökeres is now learning that as well. And he's gone from strength to strength and he's improved as well. Odegaard, these are kind of number 10s and attacking players that you like to see play with flair and look beautiful on the ball and do cute things on the ball and tricks and flicks and line breaking passes. That's not all, the number 10 system is about in Arteta's team. It's high press. Who leads the press more often than not? It's Odegaard. That work rate off the ball, for leading the press, getting everyone else up the pitch. Mesut Ozil, you think he can do that? Mesut Ozil was in one of Arteta's first teams, or one of the players that, had to make way for this rebuild. You think Mesut Ozil, as much as we loved him on the ball, he was a genius. He's one of the best number 10s the game has ever seen, one of the best playmakers the game has ever seen. But do you think Mesut Ozil would work in this system, pressing off the ball, work rate, intensity in Arteta's team? No. And we had to make that sacrifice, and that sacrifice paid off in the end. Mesut Ozil didn't win a Premier League under Arsene Wenger and even Unai Emery. And there's many reasons for that. That's conversations for another time that we will get into in the summer and whatnot in terms of financially what went wrong, the politics behind the scenes. So it's not all down to Ozil, but I think something had to give in order for us to, a defensive structured team, a defense who's resolute that works, through players 1 through 11. Even if there's one, player off sync, off tune, that's not going to work. It's got to be all 11 working in unison. It's got to be a well-oiled machine. If one part of the cog is malfunctioning, then the whole thing is going to break down. And unfortunately, that was the case when it comes to Mesut Ozil, right? He didn't have it. He didn't have it the way, again, you see Odegaard have it. Odegaard may not be as talented as Mesut Ozil, but again, for what this team demands and for how Arteta envisioned the success, it wasn't going to be with a playing style of a Mesut Ozil. Somebody who, again, like I said, on the ball is beautiful, but off the ball just isn't the same kind of player. Our wingers, we demand so much from our wingers in this system, so much so that we see a lot of our wingers pick up injuries, muscular injuries, because they work so hard. Your Sakas, your Martinellis, your Trossards, off the ball, you have to work so hard in this team as a winger, as a wide player. It's one of the hardest positions to play, in my opinion, in Arteta's team, because you have to work so hard. You have to work so hard off the ball. Again, like I said, the transitions, tracking back, helping your fullback out in defense when we're off the ball. Um, you've seen Martinelli do it so many times, and that's why Martinelli is in this club and in this team in this squad under Arteta. Because again, Martinelli is not the best winger in terms of output in the attacking third. He's difficult to watch a lot of the time, Martinelli. But because of his work rate is unquestionable, undeniable, that gets him a spot in Arteta's squad. He works so very hard, Martinelli, off the ball. He's very defensively switched on, and he'll work his ass off for the team. And that's why, he's still here. And when you see the celebrations yesterday and you see the likes of Martinelli, who's been here 7 years, he's been in the transition between Emery to Arteta. And so he's been here through that project, Martinelli. And again, he may not be the best and most talented winger, but you can't question his commitment, his passion, his work ethic, his love for the club. He'll die on the pitch for this club and for this manager. And that's why he's still here, Martinelli, because he's not the most talented Brazilian winger you've ever seen. We've had many more talented players in the Wenger years, as I mentioned, that just haven't had the same level of success. Martinelli can now say he's a Premier League winner. Not as talented as the likes of Nasri and Hleb, Rosicky, and all these other players that we've had before him. But what he can say, Martinelli, over these guys is that he's a Premier League winner now. And you saw the scenes yesterday of him crying, I think with his father or one of his family members in the crowd. He was in it, had his head in his family member's shoulder, chest area, crying for a long time. And he deserved it because he's been here. He's been here, came in as a kid. We took a chance on him. Arteta has somewhat developed him. He's had some of his better seasons under Arteta, obviously, 15 goals that one season in 22-23 in our first real title race. And, you know, whilst Martinelli may not be the answer now, he's deserved his spot in this team. He's definitely contributed to this team and he's contributed to this title win and he's contributed to the progression of Arsenal Football Club, Martinelli. There's no doubt about it. There's absolutely just no doubt about it. So, give him credit. Whatever you think of him, maybe he goes in the summer, we have to sell him, or maybe, we upgrade. But Martinelli deserves what he's gotten yesterday. He deserves his flowers. He deserves that moment to lift the Premier League crown. And the other thing that Arteta's done since he's come in is, he has I can talk about the unity, but before that, he's made us love these players. Again, like I said, those players that I mentioned earlier on in this video, with those players that we just didn't like and didn't connect with. Again, I'm sorry to bring them up, but we just have to discuss the reality of the situation. Socrates, these guys, Socrates, Lichtstein, remember him? These guys came in at like 30 plus when on the back end of their career. We didn't connect to these guys. They didn't really know. Yes, they played for the club and they'll say they love the club and whatnot, but we just didn't feel it the same. Come on, let's be honest. Socrates and Lichtstein are coming in at 30 years of age plus. We just didn't have that connection to a lot of those guys. It's sad to say, but it's the truth. We couldn't connect to them in the same way. The way we connect to these players now, we love almost every one of these players. They have almost all of them have a song. You heard it yesterday in the chants when we were lifting the Premier League in front of the fans at Selhurst Park. We just connect so much differently. They feel like us. They feel like one of us. They feel like fans on the pitch playing for the Arsenal. They die for the badge. They know what it means. They understand what it means, the passion, the energy. They're not just here picking up a paycheck and going through the motions as players. A lot of these players were in the past. At least that's what they showed to us on the pitch. They didn't show that desire. The players that were in Emery's era, the players that were in the back end of Wenger's era, some of the signings that we made, Kim Kallstrom, big up Kim Kelstrom. He did win an FA Cup in 2014, I believe, when Wenger's squad. But yeah, some of these guys, man, it's just like you couldn't connect with them, and you didn't understand the point of the signings. Sanogo, he came in on the opposite end. He wasn't an older player, 30 something years of age, but he was a young guy who came in and quickly fizzled out. Sanogo, we just didn't, the connections just weren't really there. You didn't really see the pathway. You're just questioned a lot of these signings and said, why are they even here? Why are they coming in? But each and every one of these signings, you saw the vision. Last summer, Andrea Berta, working very well alongside Mikel Arteta. A lot of people questioned how that relationship was going to work, but it has worked. You have the experience of Berta alongside the leadership and direction of Arteta, and they've managed to make it work. And what a window they had. Christian Mascara, you saw the vision with that signing. Shrewd bit of business came in, didn't just come in as a stopgap or band-aid solution. You came in, you see a young defender cover for our center backs to cover in wide areas at right back. Look, this guy may even start the Champions League final depending on Timber's fitness. Hincapié the same. There was a vision to that. People questioned it at first. Did we need this guy? Well, damn right we needed Hincapié. You know, Young defender in his early to mid 20s, winner in Germany. He fits right in with what this team is about and what this defense is about under Arteta. Dogged, you know, one-on-one defending, aggression, die for the badge. He's only been here a year, and look how Hincapié has fallen in love with the club and how we've fallen in love with him. You know, Passionate defending, the art of defending. He knows what it means. He gets it. He understands. You saw the vision. You see the vision. He slots right in with this group of defenders and of this group of players. The passion, the emotion. This purpose behind all these signings that have come in. Really, really and truly, there's purpose behind all of it. And there's a couple you could question. You can question maybe why Norgard came in, didn't play as much. You can question spending 50 mil on Noni Madueke. At the end of the day, no one can question them now. They have winners' medals around their necks. They've won with this group. Arteta's managed to make it all work. Yes, there's going to be question marks along the way of, again, did the Norgard signing need to happen? But you have to allow it now. They've won. He's won. There's always going to be mistakes, even in title winning teams, Pep's teams. There were mistakes along the way, but you won still. And that's all that matters. So yeah, from let me just talk quickly now about the unity. Um, Arteta came in 2019, 2020, and he said his first mission was going to be to unite the club once again with the fans. To make that connection, and he's managed to do that. He's managed to once again make the fans and the players one. He's managed to make everybody within the club whole and one. You know, let me get into a little bit of what that means. Josh Kroenke and Stan Kroenke were there yesterday. Once upon a time, if Josh and Stan showed their face around Arsenal circles, they'd be getting booed every time they appeared on the screen at the Emirates whenever they would come to games, which was rare back in the day. Josh and Stan would get booed if their faces were showed on the screen at the Emirates. It was toxic. Yesterday, when they're walking out with that Premier League trophy, it's a surreal moment because they're being serenaded and celebrated alongside the fans. Josh and Stan Kroenke are singing North London Forever. Certainly Josh Kroenke was holding up the scarf singing North London Forever. You know what? That's a result of what Arteta's done on the pitch. Obviously, the owners, they did their work as well, but Arteta's come in and unity is the key word. He's managed to, again, unite everybody. Our work and our results on the pitch, right? We're going to be happy. And that's the whole thing. We're going to keep Arteta. We're going to want Arteta to stay in the football club if he's successful on the pitch. And so once you're successful on the pitch, there's no personal agendas, right? We're a reflection of what we see on the pitch. If you put out a team that we love and that's getting results and winning matches and winning games of football and winning trophies, we're gonna love it. We're gonna love you. We're gonna love everything about the club. And Arteta promised to turn that around when he first came in. He's come in now, and like I said, now we're not talking about the owners anymore because he's won with the owners. He understands the owners. The owners understand him. He's asked for money. He's asked for financial backing because he says, if you give me money, I will deliver on the pitch with my vision. He had a process and a project that was meant to go bang, and it banged yesterday. And he sold that dream to the owners. The owners believed in it, and he's delivered. And now Josh and Stan, as owners, are able to come on to the pitch and hand the players and the team the trophy. And they're not getting booed. No one's even saying a word about the Cronkies at the moment in time. They're part of the celebrations with the fans. Again, as I mentioned, unity. Arteta has united the players, this club with the fan base because again, we love the players that we're seeing on the pitch. I think we really first started to see it in the 22-23 season in our first title race, title challenging season where no one expected it when we brought Zinchenko and Gabby Jesus in. That season was electric in the stadium. Every home game was a vibe, you know. The fans were vibrant. It was beautiful. We backed the team. Goals that we conceded at the Emirates was cheered loudly from the fans in support to say, "Come on, go again." They were almost cheering goals that we conceded like goals that we scored because they just were backing the team and behind the team. You know, we win again, we go again every single time in that season. You know, that was one season where we really saw again the fans falling back in love with the club and the players and what the team was doing. And Arteta just he went again. He went again and again and again. And as the years have gone on, you know, the players that we've been signing are players that, again, like I said, we're loving. And I have to credit him for that. You know, he's made us connect with these players on a personal level. We feel them, we hear from them, we talk to them. Obviously not directly, but you know, it's almost like we Saka, for example, feels like our little brother. You know, he feels like the brother that you never had. Sometimes some who are a little bit older than myself will say Saka feels like a son. You know, their son. They feel like a proud father when they watch Saka and see Saka lift trophies now because you know he's been there. He's one of us. He came through the system, and now he's the main man. You know, so it's something special, man. When you see what those players were doing yesterday, the trophy lifts, the celebrations, how passionate they were just as passionate as us. And again, credit Mikel Arteta for saying, you know, we need to bring the fans back on board. And again, it's based on the results that we're seeing on the pitch, the football. Maybe we don't like the style of play, but so long as it gets the results, aka trophies now, we're not going to hear so much about the style of play. We go again next season and probably gonna have to change the style of play to adapt before teams figure us out. But that's a conversation for next season. For the here and now, by hook or by crook, he finally got it done and won the Premier League with this group of players who are all now, majority of them are going to go down as cult heroes or legends for this club because we waited 22 years. And we have the small matter of a Champions League final at the end of this week, so the season can get even better. Arteta could edge himself in history. He already has done so because he's won the Premier League. But if he goes on to win the Champions League, he'll go from being, you know, once upon a time Arteta out and want everyone wanting his head on a stick to potentially getting a statue. Let me say that again because it may not be very clear what I'm trying to say, and you know you may have to rub your ears because this is coming from me, somebody who said Arteta out once upon a time. If Arteta wins the Champions League, he will go from, you know, people saying Arteta out not too long ago and questioning him, even as far as a couple months ago, whether he's the right man for the job, to deserving a statue outside the Emirates, because he will be the first and only manager to have won the Champions League for Arsenal Football Club. Now, there's a long way away before that happens, but if he were to go on to win the Champions League, and therefore that means he would have done a double, Premier League and Champions League double, he will have deserved a statue outside the stadium because no other manager has managed to win the Champions League, yet alone win a double. Long way to go, but let's see what happens. Let me know if you guys think he's going to do it in the comments, by the way. Let me know if you think he would deserve a statue if he were to win the Champions League. Um, but yeah, you know, it's crazy to think. Crazy to think that was part of his vision. He said he would come in here and wants to win Champions League with Arsenal Football Club, as well as getting us back to the summit of the Premier League. So we're halfway there. It's crazy. It's crazy to think. I would like to also mention in terms of unity, he's united the fans as well, right? In the latter Wenger years, there's a lot of division. Wenger in, Wenger out, people fighting in the stadiums who loved Wenger and supported Wenger, people fighting against, you know, defending the other side and saying, no, he's got to go. He's been here too long. He's not delivering. A lot of people were saying, you know, and maybe this was true at the time that, you know, Wenger was even, you know, losing it a little bit in terms of his football philosophies and straying away from that and focusing more on the business side of things and saving money and penny pinching and even covering, you know, being a mouthpiece for the Cronkies and covering the Cronkies a lot of the time. So there's a lot of division with Wenger in his latter years. You know, really toxic. You were seeing planes fly above the stadium with Wenger out banners. It was sad to see it. Wenger is a proper legend of this football club. But you know, you see the fights, inner circles, in-house fights between own our own fans fighting one another for Wenger in versus Wenger out, Ozil in, Ozil out. You know, there's many debates about that. So many others about other players throughout the years. Some you know players that people loved, some players people hated. Infighting in the stadium. What's going on? What direction are we headed in? Xhaka getting booed. Xhaka getting booed in our stadium when he was coming off the pitch. and then Xhaka giving it the FUs and the middle fingers and all that to our own fans. Arteta turned him around, and by the time Xhaka left, you know, we all loved him again because Xhaka has turned his performances around on the pitch and became one of our better players in the first year that we challenged for the title, 22-23 season. That's down to Arteta's work. Convinced Xhaka to stay. People and players say it all the time that Arteta is very convincing. Declan Rice, he weighed up his options when he was coming to this football club and said, do I go City? Do I go Arsenal? Do I go elsewhere? But he said once he spoke to Arteta, Arteta just convinced him and sold him the dream because Arteta looks into your eyes and sells you a project and convinces you and makes you believe. Declan Rice said it. Xhaka, that's why he didn't leave. Arteta turned him around. And by the time Xhaka left, he left as a player that people started loving again. It's amazing what the manager can do. I have to give him his flowers. He clearly has a good sales pitch, and that's why he's in the job that he's in. He knows how to talk to players. He knows the right things to say, even in the media. He knows what to say. You always saw the potential in him as a very talented young coach. You just weren't sure if he was going to be able to deliver. Arsenal Football Club is a big job for anybody. That's your first job in management. There's no doubt that he could have gone on and will go on and would have gone on to have a successful career in coaching. But to come to Arsenal at this stage when we needed things to be, we needed somebody to steady a sinking ship. Was he the right guy at that time? Right? Somebody who's a novice and inexperienced. And boy, has it proved to be that he's the right guy. He's completely flipped everything on its head. Completely flipped everything on its head. And I'm going off on a tangent. I don't even remember where I started going with this before I talked about Xhaka and Declan Rice, but it's just so many things that I have to say and so many things that you can bring up when it comes to where we've come from versus where we are now. It's been a long road. And again, if you've been along for the journey, you'll appreciate everything. You'll appreciate, the hardship even more because it's so beautiful coming out the other side, coming out of the mud and being at the summit and being the one that everybody else is looking up to now. Players are going to want to join this football club left, right, and center. You know, haters have been out with their pitchforks. And why are people hating on us now? Because we're doing something right. Back when Arsenal was playing lovely football under Wenger, but getting slapped and not winning anything, we were like treated almost like it was a pity, sympathy. Oh yeah, you guys play good football. We like Arsenal, play good football, but we're not a threat because we're not winning. Now we're winning again. That means we're doing something right because not players, well, players as well maybe, but rival players, pundits, rival fans, everyone is talking their shit about Arsenal Football Club. And that means we're doing something right. We're a threat again. Whether we win the Champions League this year or not, we go again because we've just won the Premier League. So we're going to be at the top and the top for a while. And a lot of people don't like that. Again, credit to the manager and what he's instilled into this team, into this club, the mentality, what it means to play for the badge, and so on and so forth. He wanted to bring us back to the top. He wanted to make us a threat again. And here we are. Thank you, Mikel Arteta. Because if it wasn't for you, who knows where we would be at this moment in time. So this is coming from me, who once upon a time questioned you and said, Arteta out, you deserve your new contract now. You got us over the line in the Premier League. Can you be now the first manager in Arsenal Football Club's history to get a Champions League over the line? The fact that we have a chance to do the doubles is insane, but I don't want to get ahead of myself, people. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Listen, before I wrap things up, I have to mention again, the journey that we've been on. 2020, his first season, 1920 season, came in halfway through, finished eighth place, won the FA Cup. His first starting 11, by the way, Maitland-Niles, Socrates, David Luiz, Bukayo Saka was at left back, Xhaka and Torreira in midfield, Mesut Ozil in the attacking midfield position, Alex Lacazette striking, Reece Nelson right wing, Aubameyang left wing, Bernd Leno in goal. That was his first team, 1-1 against Bournemouth. That same season, or sorry, 1920, at the end of that season, he went on to win the FA Cup and it was a sign of things to come. He didn't play a system that he played now. He played with a back three, back five sort of system. We were resolute defensively. We defended our way to beating City in the semifinal, off the break, off the counterattack, and then beat Chelsea in the final. Aubameyang, you had to shout him out every time. Arteta made a big call and sacrifice to get him out the club as well. But it seemed to be having for the greater good. Certain personalities had to go. But it seemed all now to be for the greater good. It all worked out. Let it all work out, as they say. What a time. 2021 season. No, sorry. Yeah, 2020, 2021 season. We lost to Villarreal in the semifinals of the Europa League. Dark times. I remember that very vividly. I was a mess that summer because we had lost to the manager that we sacked, Unai Emery, against Villarreal, where Arsenal would have been heavy favorites going into the semifinals against Villarreal, the Europa League, a competition that we should won. And in all our years in the Europa League, we never did win. Arteta should have won that year. We lost to Villarreal and Unai Emery in the semifinals. Unai Emery of all people. Imagine that. I couldn't believe it. That was peak Arteta out for me. I said you can't be losing to the former manager, the manager that we sacked against Villarreal. With all due respect to them, big Arsenal is losing to Villarreal in the semifinals of the Europa League. I couldn't handle that. I had a massive Arteta out campaign going on myself that summer. Smith Rowe, Emil Smith Rowe, false nine, I think, in Villarreal's away ground. Smith Rowe playing the false nine. I mean, what are we doing? I think Xhaka was playing left back. 21-22 season, finished fifth. We lost out, funny enough, to Tottenham Hotspur and Antonio Conte. We had to go to Spurs ground down the stretch late in the season. I think it was April. Went to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, lost 3-0. Rob Holding sent off for, I think, a challenge on Son. Second yellow might have been. When we were in a position where we could have and should have gotten top four. I think that was the Amazon documentary year. Should have got top four that year when we were in a position of strength. Lost out to Tottenham in the end. And Antonio Conte, they beat us 3-0. Again, I was at another peak Arteta out period for me because again, you should be getting, to losing out on top four to Spurs of all teams of all clubs. That was a dark period, a very dark time. How you survived that, I don't know. But 22-23 season rolls around and we go on to buy Gabriel Jesus and buy Zinchenko. And then we go from challenging for a top four and losing out on top four to our first title challenge under Mikel Arteta. Came second in the end, came short. We started brilliantly. I think that the World Cup derailed us that season, to be honest with you. The World Cup campaign derailed us. Jesus got injured. But yeah, down the stretch, again, we came back from the World Cup second half of the season. We had a chance to go on and cement our title challenge. Drew 2-2 at Anfield after being up 2-0. Zinchenko famously getting done by, I think it was Trent. Um, and yeah, that game finished 2-2 after being 2-0 up. And then, a couple of the results after that, we drew at West Ham, I think after leading in that game as well. Saka missed a penalty in that game. We drew a Southampton 3-3, bottom of the league, Southampton, and bottled it, some would say, that year as well. Then we obviously lost to City. We got slapped at the Etihad late in the season there. 23-24 was probably one of our better campaigns ever statistically in the Premier League, which we didn't win. I think we finished 89 points, something like that, scored a bag of goals, emptying stadiums in the 23-24 season. Lost in the quarterfinals of the Champions League that year to Bayern Munich. Around that time, the crucial game that we lost on, like the winning run that we went on, was the loss at home to Aston Villa. Managed to bottle to, I guess people would say bottle it, I guess, in that position as well, because we were in a pretty commanding position. But whether you say we bottle it or not, the fact of the matter is in the 23-24 season, we fell short. Again, second half of that season, we went on a beautiful winning run. I think only lost one game and drew one, and then we won all the other games around that in the 23-24 season, second half of that campaign, and just lost out to City. That was the famous one where City was in, Heung-min Son was in one-on-one against Ortega. Ortega made the save late in the season. If that goes in, we win the league. Ortega saved it, so that was the difference between winning and drawing that game for City. They went on to win the league. 24-25, we were nowhere near it. Injuries galore, but we didn't have a good summer transfer window that summer. We didn't do enough. Yes, Mikel Marino was a good signing, Calafiori as well. Um, but that was it. That's all we managed to do really, and didn't have a good enough summer window off the back of two failed title races. Should have done better. Didn't do anything in January last year of that season, 24-25. Ollie Watkins was linked and all that, but we didn't bring in the striker that we needed. Had a good Champions League campaign, beat Real Madrid, lost in the semifinals to PSG, and then obviously fell way out of the title race early on in that season, 24-25, which was just last season. So we fell away in the title race in the second half of the season quite early. We all focused on the Champions League because of the brilliant run that we went on, but lost in the semifinals, as I alluded to. Mikel Marino playing up top, but we didn't buy a striker in January. And you fast forward to this season, 25-26. After all that's been said and done, we are Premier League champions. We're now in the Champions League final. It's taken us a while to get here. The journey has been tough, has been difficult. And if you've been here through the trenches and through everything, all those seasons that I just mentioned, if you've been here through all of that, kudos to you. If you've been here even longer than that, under Unai Emery, under Arsene Wenger in the banter era, We've been here for all of that. Kudos to you. This Premier League title is for you as well. We deserve this, folks. We've deserved this. I've been here since the Invincibles when I was a young boy watching the Invincibles. My dad. If you told any of us back then that after going invincible, winning the league invincible, that we weren't going to win the league for another 22 years, we'd all have laughed in your face. But 22 years later, we're here now. When technology is up, social media is up, YouTube is up. I'm putting this out on YouTube. 22 years later, we are Premier League champions, and the season could get even better by the end of it. Arteta, shout out to you. Thank you for your perseverance and your patience for this football club. Thank you for making us resolute defensively and building us a structure in our defense that we can rely on. That's gotten us into a Champions League final and has made us Premier League champions. They say defense wins championships. Can that be true on Saturday against PSG in the Champions League final? Ladies and gentlemen, I've said enough. Listen, thank you guys for being here. It's been a journey and so much more is yet to come, even beyond this season. Can we build a dynasty? That's the next evolution, right? Let's see if we can go on and be a dynasty. Pep is out of the league now. Arteta's got to continue to win trophies. Let's see what happens in the Champions League final on Saturday. But for now, I'm going to love you and leave you. This has been CJ from the Gunners Corner. Make sure to like and subscribe and hype the video, as it really, really does help us. And we'll see you on the next one, people. Take care. Bye bye.